Well, welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com. I'm your host, Freeman Owen Jr., and sitting next to me is my lovely co-host, Carolyn Owen. Carolyn, we have a lot to discuss today. The topics and the subject matter is awesome. So what are we going to talk about?
Well, Freeman, today we're going to talk more about retirement strategies, and we're also going to take some questions from our viewing audience.
I'm looking forward to that.
So let's get started.
All right, let's go.
Now, before we take the questions, I want to ask you, describe what you mean when you talk about safe money, retirement tools and strategies. And if you can give us some background as to why this is so important.
Well, very important. Now, first off, I'd like to set a precedent right now. We do not offer investment, tax, or legal advice. The retirement strategies that we use, or I should say safe money or safe retirement tools, are life insurance, disability, fixed and fixed index annuities, long-term care, skilled care programs, which is very important. And of course, what we do with these products, we employ them with various strategies so that, number one, we make sure that our clients, we help them such that they avoid costly mistakes during the retirement. You might hear me be a little repetitive about this. Set up a game plan, all right? And we set it up such that they have peace of mind in knowing that their money is safe.
Okay, and I know you also talk about why it's important to get started when you're young.
Very important. Okay. It is the risk tolerance for a younger person, alrighty, is less, I should say, than for, say, a 55 or 60-year-old person. So, and the advantages of getting started early is because, number one, you could save less and have more in the later years, so that and be conscious of the fact that you have to develop your own retirement plans here in this 21st century, and we're going to talk about pensions a little later too.
Now, what about the person who is 50 years old and has not started any serious retirement savings? Is it too late for them, or what can they do?
No, it's never too late. Whether you're 50, 60, 70, you know, I've heard you say many times, Carolyn, that there's more time in the back of you than in front of you. All right. Well, you're talking 25 and 30 years of good, solid retirement. True. And so you have to prepare yourself no matter what age. And also it's a good idea to seek out professional help in going down that journey and preparing yourself for that journey of retirement. Alrighty. Now, I've got a question for you, Carolyn. I want to get your take on this.
Okay.
We see more and more people at 75 and 80 years old that are working. Now, I guess I'm from the old school. I saw my father work very hard as a laborer in a steel mill, and he was anticipating with his contemporaries the age of 65 and retiring. Now, at 75 and 80 and what we see today, some of these folks have the energy, okay, and the mindset to continue to work. But some of them, Carolyn, just don't have enough money to retire. And what I want to do is get your thoughts about that.
I agree. And what's happened, for one thing, in our parents' generation, they may have taken care of their elderly parent.
Exactly.
But then as far as we were concerned, when you were 18 years old, you finished high school, you went to college, to the Army, or you started some road towards independence.
Exactly.
In today's world, that may or may not happen. So you still have the elderly parent who may need help. But in addition to that, you may have adult children or grandchildren who are also relying on you for help. So with those things combined, it makes it rather difficult.
Now, what about early out?
Another thing that happened, if you recall, there was a big push at one time for early outs.
Right.
So people got these large lump sums of money and did not know how to plan or how to properly distribute them. And so they ended up at this time.
It was very costly mistakes, taking monies out. See, that early out offered a person an opportunity to separate from service, but it also was a taxable event because usually the early out funds it's either a 20% withholding or some kind of taxable event. And if you suppose you're under 59 and a half, well, there's another 10%. So we have seen folks that come to us that have taken an early out, and we look at their statements and we say, well, wow, you took out $100,000 for what? For a depreciating object like an automobile. Okay. Now, some folks take withdrawals from these pre-tax accounts, such as a 401k, a TSP, or 403b, and they actually need these funds in order maybe to finance the education of their children or grandchildren. But there are other ways in which you can avoid the significant tax bite.
And then something else that happened was the Great Recession of 2008.
Oh,
and
folks
you may
lost
want to
a
elaborate
lot of
more
money
about
on
that.
For example, there was a 40% drop in the market.
Okay.
Now let's take, if you have $100,000 and you lose $40,000 in a day, you know, it takes 66.7% in order to get back from the bottom to recover that $40,000 loss. So those are some of the things that that has impacted many a boomer. And they are working, 75, 80, 85. Some of them are really trying to make ends meet.
That's true. Well, is it enough to simply depend on your 401k and Social Security for retirement, or is there more that we need to do? And if so, what is that more?
Well, here's the more. 401ks, the volatility, we're going to talk a little bit about that a little later, but with the changes and restrictions on these pre-tax type vehicles, and we've had no training, I want you to understand that, we contributed to the 401k, we contribute to the TSP, or we contribute to the 403b if you are an educator. And if you have all your eggs in one basket, a good example, we were doing a radio show at one time, and the gentleman called in, and he told us that he had 100% of his monies in equities. And so, remember I said, well, how old are you? He said, well, I'm 72 years old. My broker told me to stay the course. Well, that was pre-tax money. And he had rolled his 401k into a volatile account with his IRA. So the thing is, you have to be careful if you're a retiree or you're preparing for retirement to move more to a more conservative mode, or I should say, more of your portfolio should be a little less volatile. Now, when you come to Social Security, well, let's look at the Pension Act of 2015, I do believe it is. Being a married couple, there were tons of advantages, or I should say, you can maximize your benefits, especially if you're a married couple or a divorced person. Now, with that Pension Act of 2015, about $150 billion was taken out the coffers, or I should say the trust fund, to fund SSI and SSD, the disability portion of Social Security. Well, the thing is, Carolyn, that was a Band-Aid. It funded those programs, but it ends in 2020. And also the Bipartisan Act phased out some of the strategies that were available to married couples to maximize your Social Security. All right, so you can't really depend on Social Security. You have to depend nowadays on your own resources.
Absolutely. And you know, Freeman, we've seen a lot of volatility in the marketplace.
Yes, we have.
Now, do you think that we've pretty much seen the worst of times, or do you think we're in for more ups and down swings?
Look, you know I'm optimistic.
I know.
But the thing is, the volatility, the ups and downs are here to stay. Let me give you a little bit of history here. Let's talk about recovery times. 1929, all right, you had a depression. The recovery time, that is, it took 24 years to recover the loss. Suppose you're 55, suppose you're 70. So in other words, you'll be 94 years old trying to recover the losses that you had. And it might have taken you several decades to fund your retirement. All right, I'm gonna spend, 1966. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here.
Okay.
It took about 16 years with that correction. Now I'm gonna fast forward even further. Let's come to the Great Recession of 2008. And I'm going to give you an example. If you had $100,000 and you lost 40%, and at that time you had mortgages flipping, etc. You had you owed more on your mortgage than you did on your than the equity that was in your home. But that market took away 40% of your hard-earned savings. Well, if you had $100,000, you lose $40,000. It took 66.7% to come back from the bottom to the top. Well, that 40K might have taken you 10, 15, 20 years to put it into the 401K or some volatile instrument. So there will be swings. There will be ups and downs, okay? As recent as a few weeks ago, there was a 1,000 point drop in the Dow. But I'm still optimistic, all right? But fortunately for us in our practice, what we don't do is we don't place our clients, our retirees in the market. And we sleep well at night, and especially our clients, they sleep well at night, knowing that their assets are safe.
That is true. Now, Freeman, what should young people who are entering the workforce do in order to set themselves up for a good, solid retirement plan?
Oh, very simple. Let's talk about, because many of them feel they have time and can blow some money before setting up their retirement strategy.
That's true.
We were victims, or I should say, let's put it this way.
We're experts at that part.
When we were younger, Carolyn, young professionals coming out, coming out of college, young professionals, we spent our money. We were uninformed. We didn't think about retirement. What we thought about was nice stuff, nice things, purchasing a home, planning our family, our children, driving nice automobiles, and so on, and just saved a little bit. So if you're a young person, okay, it's a good idea to get started immediately. And when we come back on a break here, I'm going to elaborate on that just a little bit more. But most importantly, I would say to a young person, you cannot put your retirement, you cannot use a credit card for your retirement.
You have to purchase.
You have to purchase your retirement. So American Express, Visa, it just does not work. And it is not wise thinking to blow your money before setting up a retirement strategy. All right? We're going to take a break here. Folks, I want you to stay with us. And when we come back, we're going to have some more information that is beneficial to you in your retirement. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Minds can achieve anything. We make sure they get to college. Federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds to make college possible for anyone with the mind to get there. Because if given the chance, minds will do great things. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Thank you for joining us on Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com. Today we continue our discussion, Carolyn, on safe money retirement strategies, and we respond directly to some of the questions that our viewers are asking. We hope that you also answer some of your questions and concerns about your retirement and Social Security in the last segment. Now, before we get started with questions from our viewers, some of you may not even know how to reach us. I'd like for you to go to Just Ask Freeman. We have a Facebook page there loaded with tips, loaded with retirement income answers for you, or visit us on Just Ask Freeman on our Facebook page. You can also catch us on Roku as well. So, Carolyn, let's address some of the questions that our viewers have for us today.
Okay. Well, here's our first question from Dante from Memphis, Tennessee, who says, I'm only 18 years old and I'm still in college.
Yeah.
So why do I need to worry about safe or unsafe money? Since I only have a little bit, I'm just getting started and don't make a lot of money. I'm thinking, is it okay for me to wait until I'm 30 and then start saving?
No, no, it's not okay. You know, here's what my father taught me. He didn't have the knowledge on investing and so on. But he taught me a ratio of what monies I earned. And when I was in college, I earned a tiny little bit of money. But prior to that, he told me, he says, take 10% and allocate those funds, give that to your charity. Pay yourself first, anywhere between 15 and 30%, no matter how much money you earn. You got 60% left. All right. Well, if I'm 18 years old and I know what it's like to make that little bit of money myself, I would tell that 18-year-old, you're either on work study, you're working during the summers, trying to make ends meet or supplement your tuition or your books. It doesn't matter. And that still sticks with me today. 10% for charity. 15 to 30%, you pay yourself first, and then you have this big 60% left. All righty. So I would tell any young person, you don't wait until 30. Let me give you another example here.
Okay.
You know our nephew, very smart guy. He took good counsel. He graduated from college. He's 40 now, and it's been almost 18, 19 years now. We told him, I had a talk with him. I said, now, what I'd like for you to do is, I want you to fill up your 401k. You have all these job offers, already. Fully fund your 401k. And also, I'd like for you to get an IRA. He did just that. You know why I told him to do that? Because we know that many of the industries, the private or the public sector, they don't offer pensions.
No, they don't.
And our young people that are Gen X, Gen Ys, and millenniums go from one job to another. So they leave a trail of 401ks. So he did just that. Here he is 40 now, and he rolled over the two 401ks over that 15, 20-year period and established himself a safe component of his retirement portfolio. All right. And now he has another job. And again, he could tolerate more risk. So we'd like for a lot of our young people, when you start working, you can pay yourself first, fill up, completely fund your 401k because you get the salary reduction, all right, and have yourself a nice IRA and other sources, and something else too.
Okay.
You don't, when you're young, you could save less. And again, I reiterate,
That's true.
Your risk tolerance is much lower than, say, a 55, 65, or a 70-year-old person who's starting out. But even at any age, you still have to save monies. Okay.
Okay. And we also heard from Crystal, who lives on the west side of Chicago.
Right.
And she asked, what alternative retirement strategies are out there for someone who does not participate in her company's 401k program, but wants to safely fund her retirement? Now, currently, she's saving through a regular savings account and through a whole life policy.
Right.
Now, is this the best way to protect your money against volatility?
Well, it's one of the few ways you can do that. At least she has a savings account. Now, I don't know the parameters right now and her demographics as far as, I don't know what age she is, but at least she has started on saving some money. And cash value life insurance, I do believe she has too, right? Yeah, all right, a whole life plan. The distribution of the cash value can be such that it can be tax-free, and of course the death benefit is tax-free. So there are other components that are needed to fulfill, or I should say, fill the wage gap, take in consideration Social Security and other resources, her own especially, when it comes to retirement. Now, I want to thank Crystal, but I also want to thank Dante for calling, but Hortensia called, and she asked a very good question.
Yes, she wants to know what's the history behind the 401k retirement.
Okay, let me give you a brief history. Try to do this. Well, we've been talking about how pensions went away. In 1980, 81, 89% of the companies in the United States, Carolyn, offered a pension. Well, we saw, I'm going to use an example of federal employees. We saw what was happening in 1984 to 87. Federal employees who had civil service status converted to what we call SERS offset, where you have a Social Security component, and federal employee retirement service, FERS. All right, so at one time, the government, of course, was matching. All right, I think that was the carrot, the matching some of the funds or percentage of the funds that you contribute to an employer-sponsored retirement account. We saw the private sector do the same. But over the years, the matching went away. All righty. 1992, 93, 94, 95, outsourcing. More and more companies were having their goods and services, I should say manufacturing, et cetera, was done out of this country. All right. So by the time the mid to late 90s arrived, only 27% of the companies in the United States, or the industries, offered a pension. You see how small that's gotten? Today, 2.7%. All right. That shows that we were thrust into employer-sponsored retirement accounts, no training.
That's it.
Unaware. A lot of folks are educated, doctors, etc. They just didn't know about how these 401ks and employer-sponsored retirement accounts work. There are certain restrictions on distribution. There are certain things that you should know, all right? But that shows kind of the history, how the 401k had to play a major role in your retirement. But again, we just pushed on out there. Well, there you go. You get the salary reduction, here's some benefits, and that's it.
And take your best guess.
Exactly. All right.
Well, Freeman, here's a question from Washington, D.C., from Harvey.
Yeah.
And he wants to know how to best educate himself on retirement strategies with very low risk
Right.
Of losing your money without having to go to school for finance or insurance. What can you tell him?
You know what, Carolyn? That's about the easiest question that you've addressed or asked me. Here's what you do. All right. Harvey, go to Facebook. Just ask Freeman. And also, Harvey, what I'd like for you to do is like us on Facebook. And I've got a great YouTube channel, justaskfreeman.com. It's loaded with information in reference to not only retirement, but how to save money, how to set up your retirement plans, how to qualify and get eligible for your Social Security, the benefits of when to file and how to file. It's just loaded with content. I'd appreciate it if you would, again, go to Just Ask Freeman on our Facebook page and like us. You'll enjoy the content. And you don't need a degree in finance or insurance to be successful when it comes to planning for your retirement. All right.
Let's talk about some ways that you teach your clients how to plan for a better retirement. Now, if I were a new client, walk me through that first visit to your office.
You know what we do, and we've done it pretty well for the last, almost 40 years now. Okay, we've been in this industry. One of the things that we do is we get to know our client. We're consumed into their best interest. There's nothing like seeing your clients be successful in their retirement and what you've done for them over the years, and we see a lot of that. They got bucket lists. I look at them, I say, wow, man, you've been to Dubai? Yeah, Freeman, you set this up. We can do this and that. Our children through college and all that. That's exciting for me. So one of the things that we do is we know there's going to be a series of visits. Okay, and that first visit, I get to know the client gets to know us. All right. One of the things that we talk about first, if they're close to eligibility age of Social Security, when to file and how to file, and some of the strategies that are still available on maximizing their Social Security. We also bring to, we point out the fact that we're going to collect some data here, information on your bills. Okay, we do a budget. And we look at that. How can we, you're getting ready to retire. How can we decrease our debt. You don't want to go into debt be in a lot of debt, trying to retire and trying to recover and all. We make sure that we help the client understand that you should have, I don't like to use the word emergency fund, but we've even had occurrences over Christmas one time recently, where monies had to be utilized to take care of repairs and maintenance. So we look at those kind of things. And then we talk about subsequent visits. We want to talk about and discuss the wage gap between your Social Security and I use the word, if you are blessed to have a pension, not lucky anymore. If you are blessed to have a pension, how do we coordinate the distributions that we get from our annuity and our pension, our Social Security? We talk about those things and other resources. So that's very, very important. I could elaborate on that, but I just don't have the time because it seems that the clock on the wall is telling us that we're out of time. Well, before we leave, I want to remind our viewers to email us at Freeman@JustAskFreeman and get a copy of our free toolkit about retirement and Social Security strategies. And I want to thank you for watching Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of JustAskFreeman.com. And Carolyn and I will see you next week for another great segment.